So the sustainable city, eco-city or green city, it's a city designed with consideration for social, economic, environmental impact and resilient habitats for existing populations without compromising the ability of future generations to experience the same. Engineer and Managing Director of JSIF, Omar Sweeney, is here now to discuss the possibilities of creating sustainable cities in Jamaica. Welcome to Smile. It's good to have you.
Thank you for the invitation.
Morning, sir.
Do we have sustainable cities anywhere in the world right now, given what is going on with climate change?
Well, I think a number of countries, Germany and some countries in the Scandinavia, are doing quite well in getting there. And certainly we have models to follow here in our own country of Jamaica.
So Kingston and Montego, Kingston and Montego Bay are not sustainable cities?
Well, not at this time, I would say. Not at this time. And based on the definition that Simone just gave, certainly sustainable cities would mean a city that would exude all the elements of renewable energy, efficient transportation systems, green spaces, persons who solid waste management. I mean, when we talk about all of these things, I think Jamaica is developing the policies and trying to get there, but I think the infrastructure that we require, and of course, public education and behavior.
Let's do a report card. It's report card time. Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, where is Jamaica in terms of sustainability?
Well, that's a big question, Simone. I mean, I think that Jamaica
using the key indicators you just mentioned.
You know, for instance, that there's been a topical discussion about Vision 2030. And certainly when you come to the topic of sustainable cities, right now in Jamaica, about 55% of our population lives in urban areas. So I wouldn't restrict it to just Kingston and Montego Bay, because really it is all urban areas that we need to bring to this standard. And so we are lower on the scale, to answer your question, but I think that what has been going on in terms of infrastructure improvements in urban areas, our urban infrastructure is decayed, but urban infrastructure improvements and some policy imperatives that we are pursuing are what we will need. You know, things like waste to energy is something that we need if we're going to talk about sustainable cities, and continuing to improve transportation, including the use of electric buses, renewable energy, increasing the amount of renewable energy that's in our mix of energy sources. These are the things that will get us there, but we are a little bit away from that now.
Sim said using the platform, really, the things that you mentioned. We have them in Jamaica. Maybe we don't handle them as well as we should, but we have solid waste people. We have green spaces. Maybe we don't have enough. But we don't have anything.
We need more. We need more. We need to operate sanitary landfills, so that we can implement proper recycling in households, because it comes down to individuals. It comes down to what the individual does, and we have to make a decision. I mean, when you visit these cities that are sustainable, you certainly see a difference between what happens there. There's a lot of rules. People follow the rules. You understand? Because as a population, as a country, people decide that this is how we want to live. And of course, it's access to resources, because in some environments they're harsh and you don't have the access to those types of resources. Jamaica is still a developing state, small island development state, still a vulnerable small island developing state. And so but what's true, like you said, Neville, is that we have a lot of the things that we need to get there, and we're on the trajectory. I think that we need more public support, both from the general public and private sector, in moving ourselves toward this. I mean, in the work that JSIF does, we work in a lot of urban areas, as you know, and I've been here many times talking about sanitation, solid waste management. All of these things are to build our cadre of the things we need for sustainable cities, because there's no point in we could make half a tree perfect into a sustainable city. We could, but there's no point in doing that if everything around you is falling apart. And so we kind of have to bring everybody up at the same time, if you understand what I mean.
I get the point you make about personal responsibility, but there's also the issue of accountability. all of us need to do what we need to do to ensure we get there, but we need to be held accountable if we don't, which is where the overarching government policies come in and so on. All the indicators you mentioned to me are all the indicators where we're lagging. I mean, we're having discussions in Jamaica about communities getting water in 2022. So when we talk about sustainable cities within this country, are we looking a generation down the line?
Well, certainly we would be looking a couple of decades down the line, in my estimation, unless our access to resources, improve. Because, like I said, you have to also do human capital development, social capital development, which means, in simple terms, dealing with crime issues, dealing with livelihood issues. And so, I mean, what we're talking about is our work every day. I mean, frankly.
Yeah.
And so this is how we're going to be able, we have to deal with basic access. That's what you're talking about. We can't talk about water conservation if there are people without
access to water.
So you have to deal with basic access issues. You can't talk, there's still people who have transportation issues, right? And so public transportation. Garbage removal issues. So we have to solve these problems before we can really get to the point of moving towards the ideal of a sustainable city. And so that's where we are.
Look at Kingston and be specific. I know we have to improve, as Sim said, we have to improve our public transportation. We probably don't have enough green spaces. But if you get there, where do you put the green spaces? I think I know how to improve the public transport. I mean, when I say I know, I mean, I'm not an expert, but I think all of us know how it should go. But where do you get the space to do
Well, you'd be surprised. And I like the question you asked, because when we work in communities, for instance, most of the green spaces we established were formal, illegal dump sites.
Alarm going on. He's on time for his interview. Yes.
Yeah, they're formal, illegal dump sites. And so
formal illegal
dump sites. So if
it's almost like those two words should mean the same.
Paradoxical.
If you
illegal dump site.
first establish proper solid waste disposal,
Yeah.
you find that a lot of little spaces now become available.
Right.
You know, so if you look around Kingston, for example, you
Take
understand?
advantage of the space that is there. And not
So they're
being used.
there, but you just,
But
you know.
my question is, so it's interesting, right? Because at Kingston, for example, and elsewhere in Jamaica, development is happening at a rapid rate. And when I say development, I mean urbanization. Everywhere you look, there's a building going up, but not much attention being paid to. Like if you walk in many of them, it's very concrete, very, you know what I mean? So it's almost as if we are developing when you use a certain set of criteria, but on the other hand, it's like we're not, the attendant measures are not catching up.
We have to do more. I mean, the Prime Minister recently announced more green spaces, every parish having a green space, that sort of thing. And I think this is coming through government policy that is really saying what you're saying. I mean, we're seeing a lot of apartments and people need recreational spaces. And let me say something else about green spaces. Green spaces are important for conflict resolution.
Really?
Explain that.
Green spaces are important for conflict resolution. If you live in urban spaces and there's conflict because it's dense, it's more dense, and people are stressed, green spaces are important where the person can maybe go and calm down.
Right.
You know, or you can go and have a conversation in a better environment. And so sometimes we just ignore it as they say, oh, it's a fun errand. It is important to keep conflict. You know,
that's
interesting.
It's profound,
and that's why we plant some green spaces here because
we can put one right behind you.
Can put a tree. Okay, all right.
Yeah, I understand.
Important work that JSIF is doing.
What I suggested many years ago is like, well, we call them little towns now, like Vineyard Town and stuff. But all those areas should have a park.
Yes.
Every single
Community.
one. Yeah, every single one should have a little park. I grew up in an area, if you ever see the park, especially in the summertime, you drop down. Right. I mean, everybody just go out and just sit down, whether it's picnic or not, just sit with your family, you know.
And we as Jamaicans must demand it. You know, we must want it. And
do our part to effect it too, because if you have a place where you see some trees can plant. The community can
One
come
of the
together.
problems is that we don't protect it. I mean, so you say you have a little park where you can sit down on the grass, and then 2 weeks later, the dog, you can't sit down on the grass anymore because the wild dogs are all about, and, you know, so we not only need to place them there, but we need to, you know, look after them and protect them. Good to see you, sir. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for the
And
invitation.
good work that JSIF, you and JSIF are doing. Omar Sweeney, Engineer and Managing Director of Jamaica Social Investment Fund.
I think that alarm means you have somewhere else to be, so we left you right on time. Up next, we're going to be talking about the global impact of dancehall culture. Maxine Stowe is here to take us through that discussion. We'll be right back.